Actually, standards is the integral component of taking technology and transitioning it to the marketplace, and also planning for the environment of really 20 years out. The work that's going on standards actually is in two phases. One, looking at initial requirements, such things like smart meters and the intelligent appliances that are coming out in the near term. But long term, the smart grid is two-way, not only two-way power, it's two-way communications, and it's two-way service delivery and IT support. So the future of the smart grid 20 years from now is actually going to be the next internet. In fact, the development of the smart grid will be a much more complex development effort than was the internet development activities. And then we're in the process now of developing the architecture and the framework for which we can build standards around to support those needs looking 20 years out. The activities, the global activities within the IEEE relative to smart grid are one of an integrating activity. The way the smart grid is evolving, you find that each geographical area is assessing its priorities. You have in the U.S. under NIST an activity to develop a smart grid strategy for the U.S. Similarly, you have one in Europe that is looking to be completed later this year, earlier next year. If you go to Asia, you have one that's been developed and produced in Japan earlier this year. China has its strategy. Korea's recently developed its strategy. However, all these requirements need to be integrated together. If you go to Asia and you look at the work in China, they're focusing on regenerative energy and storage technologies to improve the reliability of their grids. If you go to China, smart grid to them means deploying reliable technology through the whole country. So they're focusing on high voltage transmission as a necessary technology. You go to Korea. This is an opportunity for Korea to further enhance and develop the reliability in its nuclear power structure, which is an area that they emphasize. But however, they're all doing this, and they're all focusing on doing this under an integrated, I'll call it technology umbrella or architecture. All looking the fact that in 20 to 30 years, not only are we expected to have an intelligent grid, all components on a grid will be intelligent components. The grid will be a service delivery network such that if you buy a Samsung refrigerator and plug it in Berlin, the folks in Korea will be aware of it, they'll be able to support it, they'll be able to service it. You'll be providing intelligence to consumers worldwide, and industry wants coherent and consistent technology for those services to these consumers. So these various geographical regions are recognizing that the capabilities of the IEEE Standards Association provide them the capabilities to rapidly initiate and develop projects and programs which will lead to meeting their requirements of the future. In addition, the IEEE is working very closely with other standards communities. Smart grid is not an activity or an effort that will be done by just one standards community. It will require standards communities working together. The folks in the SAE will be looking at the requirements for electric cars, but the IEEE will be working with them on the interface requirements for electric vehicles. The IEEE is providing technologies such as the black boxes and things like that that'll go into electric vehicles. We're working with other IT groups like the IETF, or we're working with communications groups like ETSI and the ITU to ensure that as industry comes together and develops these requirements, that they're integrated. Much like the internet, if you go back and look at the internet, you wouldn't have an internet today if it weren't for groups like the IETF, the W3C, OASIS, IEEE, and ETSI, and they all had to develop programs and projects that work together. And the IEEE plans to be an integral partner of this effort going forward.